So today it's about the Concatenator by DataMind Audio. And if I had to describe it, I would say this is an granular audio effect. But the twist here is that you don't use the audio input from your synthesizer or maybe from your microphone to create the grains. You use different samples from your hard drive and find the perfect matching pieces to your input signal. So it exchanges, your original sound with some samples or grains from these samples on your hard drive. And it says it uses AI for this, but I don't think it's AI. It's not an LLM. It works pretty fast. It just tries to match with a very clever or smart algorithm the input signal to some random samples on your hard drive. So you can choose which kind of samples you want to use on the left side here, right? And it works pretty fast. I'll show you this in a minute. So what we have here as a setup, we have just a synthesizer here playing a saw lead. Nothing special. And then on this, or after this synthesizer here, we have the concatenator with some random samples loaded in. And we bring up here the mix, okay? And when you change the input signal, it also changes here which kind of samples it chooses. And you can change all kinds of settings here for the grain controls, right? So for instance here, min max, it's pretty interesting. So it controls the minimum grain length and the maximum grain length. So at the moment you can hear it's a lot of noise, or it's very noisy. So the grain size is pretty short and it chooses different bits and pieces from different samples. So we make the grain size here longer, and then it plays longer pieces from these samples. And then you can change the variation, of course, how often you select different samples at random, I think. Stickiness here controls the likelihood of choosing time consecutive slices of audio. Higher values increases the average grain length. Lower values increases randomness. And you can also modulate this here. You can see there's an LFO on there. Maybe just remove this here. Or let's remove here all the modulators for now. And you can hear it tries also to match the pitch of the input signal. So this is actually a pretty interesting granular audio effect, something that's different. Usually, there are probably gazillion granular audio effects already on the market. I think the most popular one here is called what's the name? Portal. That goes actually in the same direction, but here Portal is like a traditional granular effect, right? It takes the input signal, reads out some grains and plays it back in a different manner. And Concatenator goes in a completely different direction. It just takes different samples from a hard drive for these grains. And it also tries to match these grains so it makes sense, right? It's the right pitch. And you can also dial in here the spec wide and the amp wide. So if your input volume changes, right, it chooses the right sample that has the same kind of dynamic or something like this. And the spec wide, I think it tries to match the overtones from the input and the output signal. So you can, change this here and have different outcomes to it. And if you put this here, let's say on an audio signal, here it's my microphone. Yeah, that's my microphone. And then I choose this here and just talk over it. Or maybe I just disable here my OBS microphone for a moment. Yeah, it's very hard to understand probably what I say there, but it reminds me of this one plugin by Krotos. It's called Reformer Pro, and it came out a few years ago, but it goes in the same direction. I don't know if they actually do the same thing as data mined audio here with Concatenator. And by the way, it's 149 euros, dollars. And it's no iLog. And there's also a 7-day trial available, so you can try it out if you want to. And they also use here something like a combobulator, right? And you can buy certain brains from certain artists here, but I think, or I guess this is the same technique, but they deliver this plugin with some samples from these artists, and then you choose or pick and choose with the same effect, with the same granular effect from these samples from these artists, and you get the same vibe or the same feel of this. So we talk here about Concatenator. So this is Concatenator on the voice, so you can also bring in some Foley samples, and then you talk, right? Or you make some noises, and then you can put this in a movie score or whatever. You don't need to pick basically the right samples. You just play sounds or make noises with your mouth in the right frequency, the right intensity, and with the right amplitude envelope. And this one then chooses the right samples from the hard drive. So let's put this here back on the synthesizer for a moment. And let's remove here some of these samples so you can see how fast this works. So we had here a lot of different samples before, but it turns out you can also do something like just put in one long sample. So here I have some ambient tunes I made. So let's track this in. You can see it's just one sample or one long sound file, and extracted here different bits and pieces from this audio file. And then you play here a sound, again my saw lead. Make the grain length a bit shorter. And maybe you can use your reverb on that. Always nice. You can probably make some interesting drones or ambient sounds with this. It's probably also nice on bass sounds, you know, replacing the bass sounds with some artifacts or with some Foley samples here and there. I haven't tried this yet, but I want to. So it works only also with songs, or let me see, I had some kind of, or let me see here, it's actually in my other, let me see, I had this one here. So let's track this in. This is basically a video I downloaded here from YouTube, a piano piece. So let's try this one. You can see it matches perfectly with my pitch of the input synth. I think it also pitches these samples. Then I have here Let's go back there. Sample collections, polarity. I have here some keys I sampled from Triton. So let's put these in here. Maybe I just remove this on here. Nice. You can see on the left side here the CPU. If you drive up the particles or the number of particles you want to choose, it also goes up, right? But you can create a more dense sound out of it because you just use multiple or more particles. So I find it pretty interesting because you can just throw random samples you have on the hard drive in this device, or you can throw in complete songs or just stuff you just sampled, household instruments, I don't know, just throw it in there and just experiment with these parameters here. And this one tries to match the overtones, it tries to match the pitch, and it tries to select, you know, the right samples for it. So you match the input signal with the output signal. So it's kind of interesting device. Maybe it's too expensive for what it does. I have no idea. But like I said here, there's a 7-day trial available. So you can try it out for yourself if it's actually for you. I think it works in all kinds of different contexts. So ambient, right? Foley, if you want to create some sound effects. Also some bass music if you just want to have textures on top of your drums or on top of your bass sounds, could be interesting. Or just use your voice to create textures or drone sounds with lots of reverb. So it can work in every kind of different context. I bought this here a few months ago when it was in beta, and it released in version 1.0, I think a few days ago. And they asked me to do a video on this, but I didn't answer so far. But I wanted to make a video anyway, because I think it's a great concept. It's something different, actually. It tries to do something different, and there's no iLok. So that's why I made a video about it, right? So I just want to show you something new. So that's Concatenator. I put the link in the description below. Maybe it's interesting to you. Yeah, that's it, I think. Let me know what you think. Leave a thumbs up, leave a subscription, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.